I mean, I'm not saying that your views are objectively wrong and mine are objectively
right. Then if my views
I'm
are not objectively wrong, then me advocating for Christian nationalism and completely repealing everything in the United States to make it format around Christian values under a secular purview would be fine.
Andrew Wilson completely schools this Jasmine Jafar, who is an OF. I don't know if she's on OF. It says she's an OF lawyer. I don't know what that is, but either way, Andrew Wilson completely schools her. Let's see how this goes down.
So I give you this hypothetical experiment, which maps on well to reality. Assume I came to the Christian worldview of ethics absent the belief in God. I believe everything they believe in regard to morals, but just don't accept that God is real. Jasmine, on the other hand, says the entirety of all human morality is adjudicated by her preferences, no different than I do in this hypothetical scenario. How do we determine who is right? We would have to go by utility or consequences. So I would like Jasmine to explain how a mother of three has less utility to society than an OnlyFans prostitute who has sex on Twitter for money. How does it maximize utility or give good consequences to allow incest? How is it maximum utility to allow necrophilia? And most importantly, how would my Christian nationalist society give bad outcomes by simply outlawing all of these things, all of them? What's more, how does society end up being worse consequentially off under authoritarianism, not allowing these entitlements? Also, why would it be immoral for Christians to be in power under a theocratic moral foundation instead of a secularist foundation of morality? Ultimately, Jasmine will agree with the universal morality of Christianity, but only take exceptions to the fact they won't promote degeneracy, which ultimately is all she wants rights for, degeneracy. She won't take issue for our morality on murder, charity, chastity, decency, virtue, duty, none of it. She'll only be able to make the case that she doesn't want the world I postulate because it doesn't allow for her brand of degeneracy. So with that, I yield my opening time, and I'm happy to get into the debate.
Okay, yeah, that was a great video. Andrew Wilson completely owned this woman. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch you later. Just kidding, of course. I think Andrew Wilson already said it already. I don't know how this woman could argue against any of that, but I guess we'll have to see her try.
Record, PWF is fully on board with fucking your sister if your sister is hot. Okay, anyway, let's get into the open panel portion. So have at it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so I just want to say that I don't think that rights are rights if they just, my point isn't that we should only have rights when they have no harm. Most of the rights that we have some harm associated with it, but that freedom, and our country is founded on freedom, and it instead of religious dogma, is what outweighs that.
Yeah,
so
who cares?
For instance,
who cares what
speech,
who cares what the country's founded on?
No.
We're having an argument.
Still matters,
just wait a
even
second.
though people
Hang
can
on.
say mean things.
I want to know.
You like your freedom to gun. Well, you said I could have a while to respond. You just went on.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Go ahead. That's fair.
10 seconds. And then you also say, like, so for instance, I assume you really like your right to own guns. Well, guns also harm people. Now, I believe in your right to the Second Amendment. And I believe that you having that right outweighs that your whatever harm that guns bring about, at least when it comes to generally the ownership of guns. I think Andrew's main thing is that he believes that because he believes in an objective morality, which even that, the only reason you believe that your God is better than other gods is only because of your subjective beliefs. At the end of the day, your morality is pretty much just as subjective as mine. The only reason someone would choose one religious morality over another is they feel that it has a better moral framework for objective truth. If you think Christianity has a better moral framework than Islam, you need a moral basis on which to judge that. And
Hang
it
on,
can't be
Jasmine.
the religion itself.
I just want to correct this so that she understands. I've granted this worldview is true. I'm assuming that I came to the Christian ethics that I have under a secularist purview, meaning that I'm not saying that it's based on a God or anything else. I'm agreeing with you. I came to it completely subjectively. Why am I wrong and you're right?
So, but the framework you want to hold up is Christian. You want
yes, but I came to it right.
Theocracy.
So that's why I need to explain this to you. Right? Assume that these are. I came to the same exact worldview that I hold right now, just absent God through secularism. So I reject your notion of rights, and I reject your notion of entitlements. I reject your notion of everything. Okay. But I'm not basing anything on God. I'm basing it purely off of a subjective standard for the purpose of this thought experiment, meaning I came to all of these views through a secular ethos. Why am I wrong and you're right?
I would say you're wrong and I'm right, because at least in this country, your worldview wants to alter our history, our values, our national identity. I just gave you some reasons that secular countries tend to fare off worse than countries that are run by a religious doctrine as the law of the land. And I think
Jasmine, don't you
America,
mean,
one of the reasons.
I think you're trying to say better, right? Not worse. Secular
Yeah,
countries.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry if I misspoke. But I would say that, like, if you don't like America, if you don't like the freedoms that we have,
Then get out,
okay,
right?
Just do.
Then get out. If you don't like it, then
I mean,
get out.
honestly, yeah, I'm really proud to live here. So if you're basically saying that America's freedoms that they grant us are bad, and I'm saying when I look at the world and I look at what freedoms other people don't have, like the countries my parents came from, while we have those rights here, I look at this as a good. And I'm happy to live here.
So
if you
let's back
to live
up.
There, I think that's true.
So hang on, let's back up.
It's a completely ridiculous argument. You know, she's talking about the freedoms. And it's like, yeah, just because you have the freedom to do something doesn't mean that you should do something. And I think at the end of the day, that's what this argument is over. Is it morally good to do what she's doing, or is it not? And Andrew Wilson's making the case that it is not.
You're not actually responding to this. I'm gonna tell it to you again. I'm assuming for a second in this hypothetical that I have come to the worldview that I hold absent a God, meaning it's just purely secular in nature, okay? And I hold all the same values I do, but I don't base any of them on some murderousness sky daddy, as you would put it, right? Why would those values be wrong and your values would be right if we're both subjectivists?
I mean, I'm not saying that your views are objectively wrong and mine are objectively
Then if
right.
my views are not objectively wrong, then me advocating for Christian nationalism and completely repealing everything in the United States to make it format around Christian values under a secular purview would be fine.
So yeah, if you want to sit here on the internet and argue with a porn star about a revolution that you want to have on the internet, go for it. Good luck.
So
right?
you're
Our
conceding
Constitution has lasted this long for a reason.
So you're conceding.
I just gave you. I'm saying that you don't have an objective morality and I don't have an objective.
You're right.
So we're on the same page.
So if it's true that we're just both coming at this from two different subjective worldviews, and you claim that mine is just as valid as yours, what is your argument for why it is that I should not impose my version of this on society and should instead yield to yours?
I'm not saying you shouldn't. You can advocate for it. That's what freedom of speech is. You can sit on the internet, you can have your channel, you can advocate for it. But our Constitution and our branches of government are this way, and they've been this way for a while. Now, there's little differences. Supreme Court may interpret the First Amendment in different ways. But if you want to get rid of the First Amendment, if you want to get rid of our entire country, America as it is, you have the right to try to sit there and convince people to do that.
Yeah, and you don't think that, but here's the crux. Here's the crux.
Bad idea.
So you say I don't have a problem with that. You're saying it's not immoral to do, so you have no objection to people doing it.
I have no objection to people trying to, I think just like our founding fathers decided to make this country based off reason, debate, winning in the marketplace of ideas. I do think that's the way to do that. So if you want to have a revolution with guns and overthrow people, I don't think that's good, but I can't sit here and stop you from trying to do it unless you're doing something, illegal, and then, the power.
So then you have no moral objection to it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And if hang on, stop. Let me finish. So since you have no moral objection to this, since you have no argument against this, since you don't think that it's wrong for Christian nationalists to advocate for this, since you don't think it's wrong for us to go ahead and reform the entire nation or whatever purview that we want, what in the world is your argument to keep the status quo then?
I mean, absolutely, 100% correct. One thing that these atheists fail to realize is that this country was founded on Christian values. It was built upon Christian values. A lot of our laws are based on Christian values. We're not just born knowing, hey, we shouldn't, murder people, or we shouldn't do this or that. Like, no, we grow up with this morality taught to us from Christianity. Now, I don't know exactly what Andrew Wilson is arguing for. It seems like he's arguing to have a Christian nationalism country, but I don't know what that means. Like, does that mean, listen, I'm all for basing and building this country on Christian values, but does that mean you're not allowed to practice other religions? I don't understand what that means. Maybe people in the comment section could help me out a bit. But you ever notice these atheists, like these people who argue so strongly against God and Christianity, they do it to because they want to do degenerate things. They argue against it because being for it won't allow them to do these degenerate behaviors that they are profiting from or just having fun or pleasure in doing. It's not so much about freedom. Like, absolutely, she has the freedom to do this. But should she do this? Well, clearly, doing this type of behavior isn't good for your soul. It isn't good for your mental health, and it's not good for your soul. And if you're someone that's okay with doing that and sees no issue with it, and I mean genuinely don't see an issue, not someone who's trying to cope or trying to put up a front because they know deep down it's wrong, but they just like the money, or so they're trying to cope with it. No, if you're someone who genuinely doesn't believe it's wrong and you think it's fine doing it, clearly something went wrong in your childhood or your upbringing to clearly not have any issues with this sort of behavior. Because regular people who do have some sort of moral compass, when they engage in this behavior, they mentally and their soul suffers for it. You could see it, that they are sad inside. It's like that recent OnlyFans girl who broke the record for sleeping with 100 men in a day. How she breaks down crying. You could tell there's clearly something going on with her inside. There's something damaged in there. So if you're someone who has any sort of moral compass, you'll feel those effects. Maybe not right away, but eventually you'll feel those effects. But if you're someone who never feels those effects, maybe that's someone that you might want to stay away from. Andrew Wilson did a great job here debating this woman. What do you guys think about that? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe if you enjoy content like this. And if you do enjoy content like this, I have a whole bunch more videos for you on the screen to click on and enjoy.